everyone, welcome to Honest Conversations with Shilpi Shailaja Shamshuka, the founder of Expresso, a psychologist, mentor, speaker, and a storyteller. I am Amulya Dasari, the publicity chair of Samskruti, the cultural club of G. Narayanamma Institute of Technology and Science for Women, Hyderabad. The country and the world at large are facing a major health crisis, and the news of increasing cases, fear, anxiety, and the psychological trauma is definitely taking a toll on all of us. Um, there's a lot that has been heard and said about mental health lately, and it's high time we hear it from an expert. So here we have an expert joining us to answer all your queries and questions. So stay tuned to the entire session and get your questions answered. Hello, ma'am. We are really happy to have you here. We're really excited.
Hello, everyone. Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, so can you give us any insights about mental health and in general, and explain us how it is important, just like physical well-being, and how to prioritize it?
Okay. Well, now with the advent of technology, how technology is progressing, and also with how people are becoming aware, people are becoming woke, as they say, millennial term woke. So it's quite, I'm quite happy to know that people are understanding the importance of mental health. Mental health and your physical health go hand in hand. Whichever we put it as, either as emotional health or spiritual health, whichever way we term it as, tag it as, define it as, all of them go hand in hand. It's just like how for a battery to recharge, it needs a charger, and for a charger, it needs a battery or equipment to charge. So similarly, your body needs rest, and it needs your mind to rest, and your mind needs rest, and it needs your body to rest. So they go hand in hand. And it's often that importance is placed on physical well-being, physical fitness, and there are many reasons for it. It is our conditioning, it's also society's pressure on how we look, whether we are presentable, and so on and so forth. So which is why often we see that the stress and the importance on physical health, and it's quite enlightening to see that people are now also opening up to mental well-being. And so as our today's conversation, our today's title is Honest Conversation. This is the truth. This is the first and foremost truth, that your well-being is important holistically. So along with your physical well-being, along with taking care of how you look, what you wear, what are you doing, what are you learning, so on and so forth, take care of your mental being. What is going on here? So yes.
Yes, ma'am. So there are a lot of terms being said and heard, like they can be a little scary and intimidating to a lot of them because they don't know what exactly they are, like depression, suicidal tendencies, anxiety. So could you give us a clear-cut picture of what they exactly mean and how we should understand with those words?
Yes, of course. And as you rightly pointed out, knowing these terms is scary. And now Google G is everywhere, and it's quite easy. Within fingertips, instantly, kuch bhi ho search karte hain, and Google just gives us an answer. So even for a headache, Google has like 10 variations. Ki your headache could be this, or this, this. And then the person suddenly feels, oh God, do I have cancer? Do I have this thing? So on and so forth. So number one, yes, get to know the terms, because this makes you aware. This makes you a conscious person. This makes you observe and analyze your patterns, observe and analyze other people's patterns, be a support and seek support. It enables you to do that. You get a starting point and you know where to start. And before we talk about what is depression, what is anxiety, what are suicidal thoughts, panic attacks, etc., leads me to the second one. Second point is, while you are aware of information and you get to know the information, stop limiting yourself in that definition. Stop thinking that you are only and only in that boundary, in that frame, in that definition. That just because right now, as you're researching, as you're observing, as you're finding out, you feel some symptoms are common, doesn't mean
Yes.
you have depression. Leave the diagnosis to a professional, to a therapist or a doctor, because there are many factors involved in this.
Yes.
Self-diagnosis is the most harmful thing you can do to yourself. And also, which leads me to the third point, which I often notice nowadays, in fact since a while, and I feel it's quite dangerous, especially for your generation, is when we label a person, when we define a person, when we attach a tag, we seize that person's existence to that tag, to that label. So be careful of that. Simply because you're going through a particular phase which might have led to developing certain mental health problems or issues doesn't limit you till there. Once you overcome them, once you understand and learn how to handle yourself in those situations, you are way beyond that particular tag or definition. This is dangerous for both self and to the others. Self, because we start thinking in terms of victim mode. Oh my god, okay, I'm going through this right now, so I don't have any power, I don't have any control, I can't change things, I can't move past this. And for others, because then others also attach that, oh my god, okay, she's going through this or he's going through this, I better stay away, or like give them a space, or do this or do that. And we either overly protect them, or it's like under protection. It's either of that. So while today in our session we discuss about all of this, remember, all of this is only to make you aware, rather than to stop you or to or limit you or to define you. No, that's just not the idea, or that's just not the motive or the objective behind doing this session between Samskruti and me. So now coming on to what's depression, anxiety, panic attacks, suicidal thoughts, so on and so forth, these questions that most of our girls had queries on. So as I said, there's so much of content going around, and I would just tell you in simple terms, and this is only for your awareness, reminding you once again, leave the diagnosis and the conclusion and the results to a professional. So depression is feeling, in simple terms, again reminding you, so this is feeling low for a long period, for consistent amount of time. Now, while we may have queries, again I will, as we discuss, I will help you understand how we can distinguish between our different moods and these behavioral patterns or these symptoms. And anxiety is when you have palpitations, when you have a surge of energy in your body, when you are nervous, and when you feel overwhelmed, or some people also say it as chaotic, so on and so forth. And panic attacks and anxiety most of the time are go hand in hand. Please stop getting scared. It's all right. This is just like a byproduct, so on and so forth. And moving on to suicidal thoughts, there's a difference between suicidal thoughts and suicide. More on that later. Most importantly, while we are discussing these terms and these topics and what is it about them, remember that the basis is the same, and the basis is all these are your coping mechanisms with respect to situations. You went through certain things, be it in your childhood, be it now, some sort of trauma, or when you were a baby, and you learned that this coping mechanism is what makes you safe and what makes you sane and what helps you survive. I know for some of you this might sound like, what, safe? How is being in depression keeping me safe, or being anxious keeping me safe, or so on and so forth? more about this. So humans instinct or humans nature is to survive. That's the primitive nature that we have. It's in our genes, it's in our bones, it's in our cell. And as we all know, as we have all studied history throughout our schooling, that we've come from apes and monkeys and chimpanzees, over centuries we have all evolved, and how our ancestors were cavemen. So majority until now, our primitive brain, so a part of our brain is primitive brain or reptilian brain. You can Google, while you're watching this, you can Google triune brain, TRIUNE brain, and you will understand more of what I am saying. So a part of our brain is reptilian brain, and hence the basic instinct in every situation is survival. Once we move past it is when our other brain functions kick in, which is the so on and so forth. So all these, as I was saying, all these are coping mechanisms that you have learned, which helps you survive, which helps you understand, handle the pressure, the stress that you take in from the situation. So it's all right. At that point in time, when this whole thing started, when this whole behavioral, these symptoms and patterns started, you thought this was the best option for that age in that point in time. Doesn't mean you need to continue with it, because right now, look at you, you're evolved, you're aware, you're conscious, you're questioning things, you're learning about things. So that's the starting point. Yes. Moving on to the next question.
Yes, ma'am. So how do we identify what is happening to us, and how do we know what's basically going around in our head, and reach out for support or help from an expert? Identifying our patterns, behavioral changes, and how we are reacting to things in a pattern. How do we identify all of that?
Yes. Fantastic question. Right. Hits the nail right.
Thank you.
Okay. So as we were discussing earlier, that to avoid the is first observe. Okay. We all have triggers. Triggers in the sense certain situations elicit certain responses and reactions from us. Like for example, if we cut our finger, we instinctively either yell, either shout or yell, or just put our finger under the tap and wash it.
Yes.
So these are our conditioned responses, reactions that we've learned to so and so situation. So number one, observe. Observe that do these responses and reactions that you're eliciting, that you're doing, that you're acting, do they have something in common? And it can be anything. Okay. While you're observing, it's important to document your journey, because we are humans, our memory capacity is limited. We take in 5 to 7 chunks of information at any point in time. So our memory is limited, and so write it down or journal it or note it somewhere. When you will document these, you will have a record, and it'll be easier for you to move back and forth and see if there's anything common. Might be that on the surface you think that a person is triggering you, but when you'll go back to the entries and you'll read, and you will understand that it was my certain fear which was triggering this particular response or reaction, so on and so forth.
Yes.
So this is going to help you understand further, be it in terms of anything, be it in terms of depression, anxiety, anything. It will help you understand things, and this is the first step to take back the control and power, to wherein to shift the focus from external things to internal things, wherein you always felt like, okay, I don't have control over anything, or I can't, like, I just go with the flow, and how the situation turns out, and then that decides how I behave and how I act and so on and so forth. So this will be your first step to taking that power back and understanding and deciding that yes, it is in my control, that with support and with therapy and with so on and so forth, I can change. So number 1, observe. Number 2, document whatever you observe. Finally, number 3 is analysis patterns, as I was saying. Exactly. So when you do these 3, you will have a starting point to whatever's happening to you. This is like making sense of whatever's happening to you. And I always tell this to people, whoever asks me, whoever comes to me, that rather than waiting for a situation or a circumstance, or rather than waiting for the time when your battery is 0% and it completely damaged, and then going and seeking a professional help, seek now. So stop looking for reasons or excuses to go visit or not to go visit, either of them. Just go, because your well-being is the most precious thing for you. Wherever you're right now, you can always be a better version of it. You can always be an improved version of whoever you are right now. So even if your battery percentage is right now 50%, 60%, or even 80%, you can still go through professional help, through support system, through mentors, through teachers, through mentors, through coaches, along with psychologists, so on and so forth. You will be able to understand even better. Did you know that all the things that you go through, especially trauma, gets stored in your body when it's unprocessed? This is how your body expresses itself. This is how, when suddenly your body starts aching, for example, when do we realize we are exhausted and tired? If you're going to think back, it's either when you suddenly realize, okay, you don't have any energy in your body, or you don't have any energy in your mind, and you realize, oh, I'm like blank, like I'm done for the day, and then #lazy, so on and so forth. So rather than waiting to reach that point, even right now, for example, our smartphones, do we wait that they become 0% and then we put in charge? Or are we like 30%, 40%, 50%, and some people also put it at 15%, but yeah, we plug the phone in because we're like, कब बाहर जाएंगे, कब चाहिए होगा, खत्म हो जाएगा, हम क्या करेंगे? Correct? And right now, smartphones have become such a necessity that some of us also take it to the bathrooms. कि इसके बिना नहीं होता है. So you see how important your battery is to you. Is that what you want to do, or is that what you want to wait for? That you reach a certain point and then you're literally on the cliff, and then you're like, sorry for the analogy, but this is just to help you understand. But हाँ, okay, ठीक है, नहीं, अभी भी थोड़ा और distance बाकी है, उसके बाद मैं help लूँ. No, wherever you are right now, just take help. For whatever reason it could be, maybe the reasons you don't know right now, and during the sessions you'll get to know. And to tell you a fact, a truth, even I have mentors, coaches, and psychologists right now. They are my support system, which help me understand and deal and handle situations in a much better manner. So there's just there's no saying that okay, once an issue is solved, so you just stop seeking help. No, you will realize new things every day as you get to know yourself. Maybe 5 years back you loved apples, and today you realize you just dislike apples. And then 2 years later, you'll fall in love with apples again. So yeah, we are like that. So this was about how to identify, and also this was about when to seek support, because this would be the next question that, oh, okay, now I know, and so when do I seek support? The moment you have some starting point of data, go ahead, because in the first session itself, the professional is going to ask you questions related that, okay, what is it that you're thinking, what's happening, are these symptoms or these behavioral patterns common in certain situations. And so then you will have amount of data to discuss with your professional. This is about when to seek support, and that's about it regarding how to identify and how to seek support. Over to you, Amulya, for the next question.
Yes, ma'am. So, out of your experiences, after seeing a lot of cases, what is the most common cause which leads to depression or anxiety that you have seen? Causes for it?
Oh, if I have to say it in one word, it's belief. If I have to explain it in a sentence, it's belief in self. It's if we are going to dig deeper through all the layers like the onion, if we just peel all the layers, we'll see that we feel insecure and unsafe for XYZ reason, be it and I'll tell you, what, all of us are going through this, just in different forms. All of us are insecure and unsafe with respect to something or the other. Some of us are going through abandonment issues, some of us are going through trust issues, some of us just don't believe in ourselves. So they are all just different forms of the same feeling, the same emotion, the same belief that I am insecure with who I am right now. And simple reason being comparison. Because we either compare with ourselves, with our previous version, or the future version, or with just somebody else altogether.
Yes.
And now both are dangerous, okay? In the first instance, when you compare with your past self or your previous self, both are gone. Like the past self is gone. Like, for example, right now when you'll be watching the video, the moment you started watching this video is long gone, and you will never ever get that moment. So your past self is past, which is why we name it as past, which is why we call it as past. And so constantly thinking that okay, in that point in time with that person I was like this, and now I'm like this, and I want to go back there. Can you become 5 years old again, or 10 years old again, or a baby again?
No.
This is sad. I know it might hurt, this realization that, oh my God, okay, we are adulting, but it's okay. Everyone goes through this. I am 28 and at times I go through this too. Yeah, luckily my number of thinking about this has decreased. But yes, there are also days when I just want to go back to certain circumstances. And this is simply because we are humans. And I'm telling you this right now to help you remember and understand that you are a human, okay? And it's okay. You might think about this. What matters is when you stop giving your power or losing your power over this. Stop getting overwhelmed by this. So when it happens to me, I understand that, okay, it's just some particular emotion or some particular feeling that I'm chasing after. And when I identify that, and when I process that, and when I understand that, and then I move forward from it. So this is the thing, this comparison, first instance and future self. Oh my God. We haven't seen future. There are 100 different ways how this will turn out. How every step that you take has 100 different possibilities. And comparing with your future self that, future में मैं ऐसा रहूंगी, अभी मैं ऐसी हूँ. It's sad. Please stop doing this to yourself. You're simply hurting yourself. And the second one, we're in comparison with somebody else. This is a disaster. You are you. For example, right now, Amulya is just one Amulya in the whole wide world, in the whole of Earth. There might be many Amulyas by the name, but this wonderful, beautiful girl talking to me right now in this red shirt, Amulya, she is just one. Her journey, her experiences, her perspective about life, her decisions, her choices, everything is just unique to her, unique to who she is. And even if people say, even if we assume that, okay, people copy her whole life A to Z, but her thought process, the way she responds to a situation will only be unique to her. So even though you can copy, you'll be able to copy only a certain extent, unless you copy everything, right from genes to cells to your DNA to everything. So these are a few basic reasons that makes us feel unsafe and insecure, that we are just in disharmony with who we are right now. I am yet to make peace with who I am right now. And when I make peace with who I am, I automatically take the power. I let go of things which aren't in my control. I only control things which are in my control, which is me, my attitude, my thought process, my choices, so on and so forth. As I'm saying this, for some of you, it's making sense and it's enlightening you. For some of you, you might be in this mode of, oh God, ma'am, what are you saying? I mean, it's not possible, okay? I'm in a very difficult situation right now and I'm unable to do anything about it. If you are, DM me, speak to me right now. Okay, moving on to the next question.
Yes, ma'am. So if we observe anybody going through similar kind of situations where they are traumatized or going through depression or anxiety, how do we support them? How do we comfort them?
Oh, fantastic question. Okay. Remember that this is their story and only play a supporting role. As simple as that. Like, to remember this, remember it as a movie wherein this particular person is the main actor, actress, main hero, heroine, and they are playing their story and you're only a supporting character. Think of it this way. If you are driving a car, the car life, metaphorically, if your life was a car, you are driving it, you are the driver. And there are people who get into the car and who drop off in and out based on where you are right now and how you progress in life. So a passenger who's in the car will give you directions, say take left, take right, go forward, go back, take a U-turn, etc. You will be in gratitude for those directions, you will love those directions, or you will respect those directions only till a point. After a point, you'll be annoyed because you would be like, I am driving the car, it's my life, and let me decide what I want to do. Let me choose how I want to walk, whether I want to drive, whether I want to stop the car, whether I want to just go on the speed of 80 miles. Like, okay, I'm just giving a random number, but to make you understand that, driving rash or driving fast or so on and so forth. So just the way you would want to be responsible for your own life, take that authority, ownership, be the driver of your own car, everybody else around you likes the same, prefers the same. So just be there with people while they are figuring out and making sense of situation and things. Avoid and stop advising or likes the same, prefers the same. So just be there with people while they are figuring out and making sense of situation and things. Avoid and stop advising or suggesting unless really asked, because you might influence their choices, their stories. This is their story. And even if you do advise and suggest, I understand, as a support system, as a family, friend, so on and so forth, as a support system, you tell them things. Remember, you've done your bit. In the end, it's up to them. If they want to listen to your advice, they believe in it, they want to go ahead with it, they will. If not, they won't. So stop getting attached to that notion that, oh, okay, मैंने बताया, उसने किया ही नहीं, मैंने तो उसको बोला, फिर भी वो सुनती नहीं है, तो मुझे अब से उसको कुछ नहीं बोलना है. No, stop that. Stop getting attached to being this lifesaver or this person who pulls them out from the storm. No. Even It's as simple as you can only feed the person with the spoon, possibly push it in their mouth, shove it in their mouth. But unless they swallow, unless they bite, unless they chew, it will not go down their throat. They will just not digest it. So even if you forcefully feed them, if they don't want to eat food, it'll either stay in the mouth or they'll puke it later. So, number one, be a supporter. And what does a supporter do? Just support, just be there, just exist. Number two, exist rather than changing their story, witness their story. Number two, if you do say anything, if you do guide them in changing their story, remember ultimate power and control lies in their hands. And as I'm using the words power and control constantly, please remember I'm talking about the power and control with respect to self rather than the position or the society, like how we have those definitions with respect to like commanding somebody or leading somebody or ordering somebody. No, rather than those power and control, I'm simply talking about the power and control with respect to me. Taking decisions on my own, doing things that I like, believing in what is happiness for me. So I mean power and control in the sense with respect to me, that ownership, that authority, that responsibility. So this is what you can do. And most importantly, this thing you can definitely do. This I would say is force. With respect to this point, I tell people to force, but again, yes, to an extent, wherein you can tell them, guide them, navigate them to seek professional help.
Yes.
Now, some people, in terms of force, I mean to like help them understand, talk to them, because sometimes people are scared, and so they want to seek help, but they don't, and so they need that push. So in terms of that push, I'm talking about force and pressure. But please stop if they still don't want to listen. Like, I guess you are a better judge of when to stop. If you have done your best, and even then if the person doesn't want to seek help, there's nothing you can do about it. So just focus on giving that push. If even after they push, they don't heed to it, they don't walk in that direction, then it's their prerogative. So seek help, seek support, and be a support.
Yes, ma'am. So how do you want to tell us how to take care of our mental health in general, how to take care of our mental well-being?
Oh yes, of course. This is my favorite topic of the entire session. Okay. So recently I made a video, Mental Health Matters, and in this video I am talking about this very thing. Now the thing is that sometimes it's difficult to take care of selves mentally. It's because this can't be seen, this is happening internally. It's in the process of thoughts. It's intangible. When we start seeing mental wounds as physical wounds, this is what I did in the video, wherein when we show these mental wounds, what people are telling us, how we're taking them in terms of getting bruised on our body.
Yes.
We realize that we need like imagine if somebody, the statements that I say right now might be triggering. If it triggers you, get a book, get a pen, and start writing about it so that you stop. So you're an idiot. You can't do a thing right. You just don't understand this small thing at all. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you an idiot? These statements, to the person who speaks, the speaker, it might sound very simple, that हाँ मैंने तो ऐसे ही बोल दिया this that, and मैंने irritation में बोल दिया, frustration में बोल दिया, गुस्से में बोल दिया, etc. The listener, for the listener, it might be sensitive, it might be hurtful, it might be painful for someone who's going through low self-esteem, low confidence. And if they hear these statements, they would be triggered 5x, 2x, or 10x. So I am numbing my pain to this extent, to what my voice says, to what I feel about things. And I think that what others are saying is the ultimate, is the stamp. They define who I am. So stop. Just stop doing this to yourself. Okay? To take care of your mental health, first of all, listen to you. Pay attention to you. Focus inward. You can only control you. In any situation, focus on what is happening, what made you feel this way, what triggered this, how does it make you feel, what do you do after you're triggered, how do you respond, how do you react, where does this happen, when does this happen, etc, etc, etc. When you start writing down what, when, where, how, these four, when you start answering them, you will understand and you will let go of things. I will summarize this answer to this topic in just one question. Do you want to fill your empty bag or your empty water bottle with the shit that you receive, or with the encouragement, love and support that you have for you and that others have for you?
Encouragement any day.
Yes. I'm sorry I used the curse word, but this is so that you understand the metaphorical sense, because literally you can picture it, that the things that people give you, if they give you garbage or dirt or something, that's their choice. Again, remember, that's their choice. That is what they are offering. Rather than changing what they are offering, you decide whether you want to receive, what you want to receive and what you want to give. This is the true meaning of power and control. I decide what I give and I decide what I receive, rather than thinking what people are giving me and what are people receiving. Always the focus is on you. So I hope this answers the question. When you start focusing on you, your mind and your body will guide you as to what is the best way to take care of your mental health. Simple example, some people love books, some people love ebooks, some people love sports, some people love movies and films. There is no one dress fits all. And to find out your own unique dress, focus on you.
Ma'am, so like we usually see people committing suicide, and few of them survive, touch wood, and so there's a lot of aftermath that goes, like people, the society judging them, and they get into a lot of trauma even though even after that. So what do you have to say about the suicide survivors?
This is a very, very sensitive topic, and I am in a way happy and sad that some of our girls asked us about this. I'm happy because it shows that you care, that you're worried, and I'm sad because people you love are going through this, or maybe some of you are going through suicidal thoughts. So that is also saddening. So first and foremost, to the person who survives, it is a trauma. Like, it's another trauma. During the suicide and before the suicide, they already were going through trauma.
Yes.
After the suicide, it's an added trauma.
Yes.
And this is also called as PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. After effects of any trauma adds more trauma. So for the survivor, there's immense pressure, because there will be some people questioning, why did you do this? And there'll be people berating you and pulling you down. Why did you do this? Like poking fingers and questioning you कि तुमको क्या है, ये क्या बचपना है, या what immaturity, etc, etc. So you might be already feeling low, and listening to all of this pull down further. There might be some of them who become overprotective which is harmful for both the survivor and the other person. Overprotective in terms of that, oh, okay, so now there's a chance that this person will commit suicide, so I just give in to everything that the person says. So either I become over possessive, overprotective in terms of the person taking care, the supporter, the caregiver, or even the survivor is now like, oh, okay, I did this, so develops that victim mentality or victim mode. So this is also a possibility. Now, I understand both the survivor and the caregiver or the supporter. It is tough and it is heartbreaking. It is shattering and it is sad to go through this, be it on either spectrum, be it as a survivor or as a supporter, as a caregiver. But use this opportunity to seek professional help and to guide the person from coming out of this situation by sheltering the person, by protecting the person, by stopping the person, by numbing the pain, the hurt will not lead you any deeper. I'll tell you a reality, a truth, okay? I know this might hurt some of you who are listening to this video, who are watching this. Remember the story of Sleeping Beauty? Until her teenage years, her parents sheltered her from everything. But in her fate, it was written. And so on her birthday, she was pricked and then she went into sleep, into a deep slumber. Your pain is like this, you know. You're fighting it, you're suppressing it, you're avoiding it because you think that is what should be done. And also because it's overwhelming, it's scary to face your demons, to face your fears. This is the truth, you know, that it's inevitable. It's like happiness and sadness. You'll be happy and you'll be sad and you'll be happy again. Pain makes you stronger when you recognize it and channelize it. If you're going to look for examples, so although we were about to discuss the techniques and the things and the tips and tricks that you can do, I'm continuing with this question itself. I hope that's okay, Amulya.
Yes,
So I always tell people to look for examples and stories around them. The reason why it feels impossible to us or to self, to me, it's because those examples and those stories don't exist in my surroundings, be it my parents or my friends or my caregivers or my support family or anybody. They don't exist in the immediate, the closest circle to me, and which is why I feel that okay, if they can't do it and I can't do it, I haven't done it, so that means I can't come out of the situation. So read stories and examples, not just of celebrities, like rather than actresses or like all these celebrities that you feel are beyond your reach. There are also stories of humans like you and me, of our generation, of our society, of our class, of our caste, whatever you want to say. There are countless stories, and now Instagram is grown, and if you search, you will find stories. Read those stories. You know, especially one example that I always tell people: read stories of people that went through disabilities or lost certain body parts. Read stories about about Olympics for people who have lost their body parts. I mean, when you read them and when you watch their videos, you will see that despite losing one knee, despite losing one arm, or despite losing their both arms or both legs or something, they overcame that and they won Olympics, or they won XYZ world record, so on and so forth. They created world record. Look for these examples, people who've been in worse situations than you and come out gloriously, successfully. And yes, you can too. You're grateful, like the family that you're born into right now. I mean, this itself is a glorious, a grateful thing, that you're surrounded by people who love you, you know, single parents or both parents or brothers and sisters or friends, people who love you. Imagine the people on streets or orphans or so on and so forth. They don't have the privileges that you have. This comparison is only to help you understand and realize that you still have silver linings, you still have gifts in your life. Not everything is bad in your life. That's the only reason for this comparison. Rather than to make you feel sympathy, it's for you to feel empathy. Rather than sympathy for somebody else, it's empathy for you. That, oh yes, I am blessed that I get to eat food 3 times, 4 times a day. My body is working fine. My hands, if my hands, like a fracture, imagine a person who has a fracture, the person is unable nose, every body part of yours is working perfectly. When you start noticing these things, you start taking control of your life, and rather than being in a victim mode, you change the situation and turn out gloriously. So this is the first step, I would say, under the things that you can do for a mental well-being. One, gratitude. I mean it. And there are countless books on gratitude. If you're someone who doesn't know where to start, you can either DM me. I have resources and I can share them with you, or you can even Google, or you can YouTube, or you can Instagram. There are countless resources around you that help you start gratitude. So the reason why gratitude is important, it's because it gives you that will and that hope and faith to fight for something. If you won't have the motivation to, or that faith or hope to do something, why would you even do something? Like, the reason you write your exams and you pass your exams is because it allows you to move on to the next semester. Agar wo hota hi nahi, to would anybody even write an exam? No. The answer is no. Nobody would write exams. Nobody likes exams. Yes. So, exactly. So, if you won't have a reason, why would you want to survive? Why would you want to live? Why would you want to conquer life? So, gratitude helps you find that reason, which is also my second point, that find that reason for you in life. It could be anything. This is a personal story. I'll explain my reason. Along with being a professional psychologist, the reason which motivates me more than being a psychologist is because even I've been through certain traumas and certain journeys in my teenage and as a child, and which is why I feel if I had received that support and that care and that safe space, then maybe I would have made different choices. At the same time, I made peace now and I'm happy with where I am now, because those choices is what shaped me today. So this is my reason to every day get up and to work towards mental health, mental well-being, so that people get an opportunity to believe in themselves. This is my reason. Your reason could be something else. Your reason could be the things that happen to you. You would want to educate, guide, aware other people into tackling the same or avoiding the same, etc. Whatever. Or your reason could be for the people that you love, to provide a better life for them. It can be anything and everything. It's for you to decide how important this reason is for you. Find a reason, because this reason is what will guide you in working, in being a better person every day. And ultimately, the third reason, these 3 points are short-term solutions, short-term goals that you can do. Please remember that. I'm telling these 3 points so that you can start doing something. Some of you might be able to seek and afford professional help. Some of you, for XYZ reason, it might be tough. Just because it's tough or difficult doesn't mean that you can't do things. It shouldn't stop you from doing things. So these 3 points are short-term things, that like quick fixes, sort of instant gratification, sort of, that when you do them, it's going to help you at least until the point that you reach wherein you can seek professional help. Please remember, this isn't a replacement to professional help. This is only to help you in case you are in a difficult situation right now and unable to meet a professional. So number one, gratitude. Number two, reason to live, reason to survive, reason to conquer life. All three: live, survive, and
Right.
conquer. Please remember. And the third being, and it's a crucial question which will just answer all your questions and doubts. Do you want to be a better caterpillar, or do you want to be a butterfly?
Butterfly.
That's it. This itself will answer what needs to be done in situation. How does a butterfly become a butterfly?
From a caterpillar. From the cocoon.
So exactly, it sheds skin, it comes out of its cocoon, it goes through different stages, and that's when it becomes a butterfly, and it flies and it sits on beautiful flowers, it smells fragrances, and it enjoys life. So right now, are you focusing on being a better caterpillar, or are you focusing on being a butterfly? Choice is yours. And that's about it for mental well-being. And I believe Amulya also has some personal questions from me apart from these general questions.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
go
You
ahead,
pretty
Amulya.
much gave us an insight of what happens, how it happens, what to do, and how to take care of yourself and the people around you. So now we could go into the personal questions that we got. How do people detect and deal with toxic positivity?
Oh yeah, okay. This is another favorite topic of mine. Okay. So positivity has been misconstrued, misunderstood, in my opinion, as per me. Positivity is, yes, of course, seeing the good things in life and seeing the positive things in life and etc. But that doesn't mean that you stop accepting the reality or seeing the situation as it is. Positivity is something that guides you. Yeah, okay. This is another favorite topic of mine. Okay. So positivity has been misconstrued, misunderstood, in my opinion, as per me. Positivity is, yes, of course, seeing the good things in life and seeing the positive things in life and etc. But that doesn't mean that you stop accepting the reality or seeing the situation as it is. Positivity is something that guides you in situation. Say, for example, a heartbreak. Like a heartbreak, this is the truth, okay? There's no better way of putting it, but a heartbreak teaches you so many lessons in life, so many wisdoms. Be it with friendship, be it with relationship, be it with family members, be it with anybody, any person you love. When your heart breaks for XYZ reason, you just learn a lot of things. Of course, provided you focus on you rather than the situation and the person. You focus on your behavioral patterns. You learn the way you learned about when you gave your power away. You learn about how you spoke to people. You learn about how you behaved. You learn about how sometimes to please the other person you did things that you didn't like. How you negated your own boundaries, negotiated your own boundaries. So positivity is this. Positivity is accepting the situation as it is, knowing that pain and pleasure are a part of life. They are a circle. When you'll be in pleasure, you'll also receive pain. When you'll receive pain, you'll also receive pleasure. Positivity is when you identify and you embrace and you channelize into the way you want. For example, one simple example. When you are exercising, be it at gym or be it at home, or even while you're dancing, your body aches. With time, when you do it, that ache and that pain makes your body stronger, and it makes you more flexible. It makes you better. It improves you. This is channelizing. This is identifying the pain, embracing the pain, and channelizing. Because everybody knows, I know that unless I push my boundaries, my body will remain the same. I will not be able to be better. I will not be able to improve. So toxic positivity is when you are told to shun, to suppress, to avoid pain altogether, to ignore pain. That is toxic positivity. So stop. If you're doing that, just stop. Go back to what makes you human. Emotions. What's the difference between us and other living beings around us? Our emotions. It's because we've got a mind that makes us feel things, these emotions, these thoughts. And if you're going to shun, suppress, avoid, ignore the very part that makes you human,
Yes.
so stop that. I would say unfollow those people, or stop or restrict their posts. Stop, limit talking to them. This is for your well-being. This is just to protect your boundaries. If there comes an opportunity to discuss with them, talk to them, yes, please go ahead and please guide them. Positivity is embracing the situation and channelizing it and seeing how I can use the energies in other areas of my life to grow. This is positivity.
Yes, ma'am. What are the mental suggestions for girls who are suffering from PCOD?
Okay. PCOD, this is in my experience that I see PCOD has a lot to do with how you feel about being a woman, a lady. This would be the starting point. Of course, your health plays an important role as well, whether you eat food properly, whether it's a healthy, nutritious meal, that does play an equal important role. That along with how you feel about being a woman. Is there anything about your body that you dislike or that you hate? Anything about your body that you hate, that you want to change, that you feel like it would be better if it didn't exist? Or about being a girl, do you feel the world is unfair to girls? Or being a girl, you feel you don't get XYZ opportunity, etc., etc., etc. So I would tell you to do these two things to start with, again, before you seek professional help. One, check out your diet, check out your food habits, and two, your perception and your views about being a woman or a lady.
Yes.
And then go ahead and seek professional help.
Yes, ma'am. So the next question is, if somebody is going through a trauma after losing someone and they have a fear of death, overthinking over it, so how do they deal with that?
Okay. This is a very profound question, because we've been conditioned to think of death as something which is a scary monster, a scary demon. But you encounter death every day in life. There are parts of you that change, that die, and new parts emerge. For example, as simple as the things that you liked. Maybe an ice cream flavor that you liked a while back, you dislike the flavor, or you no longer like it and you like a new flavor now. So metaphorically, you experience death. Like, for example, the leaves around you, the flowers around you. This might sound harsh and this might sound bitter to you, or rude, like this might sound very strong to you, but death is a very natural process. It's because we have glorified death, like we have made death into this, personified death into this monster, demon, or whatever we want to name it as, something evil, something that like we should be scared of, we should stay away from, that we get scared of, and we feel that, oh, okay, matlab mujhe kya hoga. But if you just notice things around you, you'll see, like, metaphorically, you experience death in everything that happens around you. Like when you overcome your fear, be it fear of insects, fear of public speaking, fear of talking to your friends, or whatever, even that metaphorically is death of a particular belief and a new belief being formed. So starting with embracing the fact that death is very natural. This will take a while. I would suggest that you seek a support system while doing this, or seek professional help, because embracing these overwhelming feelings, if not channelized, can lead to more trauma. So I would seriously say, while you're embracing these feelings and these perceptions, please seek out support system and please seek out professional help.
Yes, ma'am. Um, how to deal with fear of missing out on things and the fear of everyone around me will catch up and will be ahead of me once life comes back to normal. Fear of competition, maybe.
Okay, I love this dialogue from Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, that's a movie, yes, by Abhishek, by Deepika Padukone and Ranbir Kapoor. Deepika says that कुछ ना कुछ छूटता ही जाएगा Bunny. When Bunny is like, let's go this, let's do that, and blah blah blah.
Yes.
This fear of missing out is because we want to grab everything that's possible. I'm going to give you an example which is going to answer your question. It's up to you whether you want to accept the answer that you receive. In a plate, when you sit down for lunch or for breakfast or dinner, for food, how much food can you pile on? One. How much food can you eat? And how much food can your stomach digest? This, I'm telling you, life is simple. I know if the one who's asked this question or other girls, you might have expected like a huge, complicated, profound answer. No, answer is very simple. How much can you fill in your plate? How much can you eat? And how much can you digest? कुछ ना कुछ तो छूटता ही जाएगा ना. दो ही हाथ है.
The next question is, I keep feeling as I'm not being productive enough, and it makes me feel hopeless and inadequate. How do I deal with this feeling?
Okay, there are 2 points to this question. One is the comparison. Who are you comparing it with? Are you comparing it with a person, with somebody else, or are you comparing it with yourself? And second one is the basis of this comparison. Like, for example, if it is with yourself, say if you have decided to read 50 pages a day of a book, but you dislike reading, or you're just someone who prefers listening to audiobooks, or someone who prefers watching movies on this. So when your interest and the goal that you have set are in different directions and different paths, it is possible that you will find it difficult to achieve it, because the starting point itself is different. So what is the basis of that comparison? And if it is with somebody else, then again I would iterate, you are you, they are them. So how about you figure out your own metric system, see what are the things that you can do, how far you can push, and then take it forward.
I think another question also is similar, which is related to physical appearance. Them feeling insecure of their physical appearance and the after effects of that, and how do they deal with it?
Okay, physical appearance. I will tell you a short-term thing, a short-term quick fix. But I would really suggest seeking help, because this is this is directly connected to your self-esteem, your self-confidence and self-belief, the way you look. So this can go in a million ways. It can either break your confidence, or it can either make your confidence. So to avoid further trauma and damage, it's best to seek professional help. Short-term thing is, again, the basis of comparison. It's because it's just our society. It's just the way we've evolved. Currently, people are becoming woke, are aware and conscious. It's how we've been conditioned and taught that the way I look determines if people will like me, if I like myself, the way I look, if I am accepted by somebody. And sadly, we determine our worth based on whether people accept it or not, whether people consider us worthy. That's not how it works, Unless you consider yourself worthy, even if someone does, you'll always see it as either a satire, or sarcastic remark, or a joke. So stop comparing and just focus on you. Focus on who you are. Start from there.
Yes, ma'am. I think everything is the same question, but I mean they are the
In
same when
different
you take.
words.
Yes, but
Okay.
ultimately I got the
So
answer that you meant comparison is the key that leads you to that. So that is where we need to identify and stop ourselves. So one thing that we could finish off, which is related to what's happening right now. Checking the news every day makes me sad, anxious, seeing the terrible things happening. Be it in terms of COVID-19 or crime in general. So, how do we deal with that feeling of trying to make ourselves feel comfortable and calm?
so this is again linked to FOMO, fear of missing out. Okay, two questions. One, the reason you started reading news, what was the purpose? Was the purpose to gain knowledge or to gain information, or was the purpose to show people that I know about this, I am doing this, I'm reading this? Or third, was the purpose FOMO, that fear of missing out, that oh okay, others are doing it and I'm not? So number one, start with these three questions. Number two, protecting your mental health is in your control. The things that you want to know, you will eventually get to know them. So you will remember what you're seeking is seeking you. So the things that you want to know, you will get to know. For example, the first March and April, I diligently followed COVID. When from April ending, I felt overwhelmed and I felt anxious, and I stopped reading news related to COVID. So because I know that if I want to know something, I can always ask the people around me. I can ask my brother, I can ask my friends, family, etc. So protecting your mental health is in your control, in your hands. When you ask yourself the reason behind doing something, you will know that it's from the space of proving somebody, or it's from the space of knowing something, doing something for myself. And I can summarize this whole session, like the whole Zoom session, our whole entire honest conversation sessions, in 3 points once Amulya finishes.
Yes, ma'am. That is it. And one more last question that we missed. That is, what as you said, once one approaches expert professional, what are the stages of treatment and cure? How does that happen?
This is a wonderful question. This is really insightful. Okay, so I will answer the question in two parts. One is from the perspective of a psychologist or a professional therapist. When you seek their support and their help, they guide you and they help you navigate the sea of emotions, the sea of thoughts. Remember, they are here to only be the passengers and guide you. So if you think they are replacements, or they are going to like magically tell you कि हाँ ये करो और तुम्हारा life सब ठीक हो जाएगा, जी नहीं. Sessions are wherein you embrace the darkest, the shadowest parts of you, wherein you know the things that you're scared of facing, fear, that anxiousness, everything that you suppress into deepest parts of your brain, of your mind. A therapist or psychologist helps you access those in a safe space, in a safe, secure space, and helps you understand and listen to your own voice, so that you can be the driver of your steering wheel of your car and you decide how you want to come out of this. The therapist and the psychologist is here to help you do that, to gain that confidence to be independent and then interdependent. Rather than outright tell you that nahi ye aisa karo waise karo, ji nahi, bilkul, neither is it advisable nor does it happen. Please, then if that happens, then you will only be shifting from one codependency pattern to another, wherein the authority figure will then change to a therapist, and the moment something happens in your life, you'll be like, therapist, ab main kya karu? And you'll start crying. That is one part. In terms of other professionals say, for example, if you take other therapies like psychiatry, or if you take homeopathy or Ayurveda or so on and so forth, they have more or less a similar approach wherein they understand your situation and they so on and so forth guide you and they tell you the process. In all of this, this is also including the summary of the entire session and answering the last question. Number one, always remember the focus is you. Focus on you, focus is you, focus is for you. Remember that is the golden rule, because the only thing you can control is you in every situation. So even in therapy, even in sessions, the therapist, the professional will focus on you as to what you think about this, what you feel about this, how do you want to go about this, nothing else. Excuse me. That is the first point. So focus on you. Second, please stop limiting yourself to definitions and to these tags and to these terms. Stop right now. As I said right in the beginning, these are only for your awareness, to make you conscious as to what's happening to you. In no means is it defining that this person is only this. No. This is a part of you. That's all. Just like how reading is a part of you, writing is a part of you, dancing is a part of you, coding is a part of you, watching movies is a part of you. All these are extensions of you, a part of you. These mental health topics that we are talking about, all of them, their symptoms, their behavioral pattern, in case you get diagnosed or are diagnosed, they're only a part of you. They don't make the whole you. They are only a part. Please remember that. That's the second point, that this is just to make you aware and use this as a frame of reference rather than the ultimate definition or the tag. And the third point, seeking support, seeking help is a wonderful thing. It's the best gift you can give yourself. Be it anybody, be it hiring a mentor, be it hiring a coach, be it hiring a psychologist, a professional, anybody. It's the best gift that you can give yourself, because everything that you do can be done in a better manner at any point in time. And you choosing to constantly improve yourself, be a better version of yourself, is the most beautiful gift, the best gift you can give yourself. So again, remember, rather than stopping for your battery to become zero and your battery to completely get damaged and deteriorated, and then a battery can be replaced, you can't. So even if you are at 50%, 60%, 80%, or even at 100%, the sessions will help you clean your phone, will help you clean your system. Just like how when the system, like smartphone, is loaded with apps and or if it has viruses or something, and we instantly format it and restart it, and it functions fantastically. Just like that, even if you're at 100%, the sessions will clean you, will help you detox and function much better and much faster way. So stop looking for reasons or excuses that ye hoga to hi main help lungi, nahi to nahi. Because you never know how much trauma you have suppressed in your body and in your mind, in you. So that was it, the summary from my end. Over to Amulya.
Yes, ma'am, we pretty much got everything that we wanted to know from you. Ma'am, is there anything that you want to tell us? Like tips and like something like resources, the books that recommendations, the books that you want us to read, book recommendations, movies, or anything of that sort that could come handy. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I do have resources in terms of books and movies and everything. I feel like I realize now that everybody has different tastes. So when I recommend certain things, some people sort of resonate with it, some don't resonate. So what we can do is, in case you're interested in getting resources, in knowing more, feel free to DM me on my personal profile, which Samskruti will link, or my company page, Expresso by Shailaja, which will also be linked. You can DM me or you can email me, which is again expressobyshilaja@gmail.com. And based on who you are, the kind of interests that you have, I can recommend you books and movies or whatever you like, because I think that would make more sense and that will resonate with you more rather than just reading anything and everything. And apart from this, it's always advisable to always explore, to read different things, to watch different movies of different categories. That's always advisable.
So that's it. I guess you guys know where to go and whom to approach. So everything will be mentioned in the description box.
I have a surprise for Samskruti and for Amulya. Now that we are ending the session, we are towards the end. So I have a surprise code for all the viewers. Feel free to text Samskruti, DM them to get the code, which is a offer, which will sort of support you and guide you in therapy sessions. So get to know the code to get the, you can use the code and you can DM me or email me, mention the code when you're contacting me so that I know that you're from Samskruti, because this code is specifically for the viewers and the people who are watching this video on Samskruti channel. And so yes, all the best.
So ma'am, thank you very much for being with us today. Like, it's definitely helpful for all of us. We all have something to take back. No matter how big or small it is, all our doubts cleared. Hope you all got your answers. If there is anything else, please feel free to text ma'am on her official channel or her personal page. That's it. Thank you very much, ma'am. We're really happy to be doing this with you today. So thank you all of y'all, and here's wishing good health and peace of mind always. Thank you.